I spent my 20s being kind of lost, I guess you could say. I think I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I knew I wanted a business. I just didn't really know what that would look like. I went to school for English and then I went back to school for music. So then naturally, when I got out of school, I lived in fear of being like a 75-year-old waitress. I was like, oh my God, I have all these skills and they're not marketable at all. I kind of just pursued things that I liked,
Uh-huh.
basically. So
Welcome to the Unstuck Career Podcast with your host, Ken Williams. Each week, we move along your path to possibility so you can finally have the life you want. Let's learn how to deal with people you never wanted to be
Welcome
friends
back to
with
another episode
together,
of the
so
Unstuck
you can
Career
become
Podcast.
unstuck and
Today I
unstoppable
have
in your
Jordan
career
Sachs,
and life.
who I met a couple months ago in person. We've been in the same circles for a little bit, like Julia and Carolina that we've talked to in the last few weeks. And I wanted to talk to Jordan because she's got such um, a great idea for working with animals. And so I wanted to talk to her, just learn a little bit more about how this all came about. So welcome, Jordan.
thank you. Thanks so much for having me on.
This is it's been it was fun chatting with you in Atlanta. I have to think about where have I been? I've been so many
I know,
places
me
lately.
too.
So you've got a dog walking business.
I
And what else
do.
do you do?
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of animal stuff. I mean, we do dog walking, cat care, pet care, small animals, rabbits, chinchillas, whatever you've got. We do dog training overnights, but it's mostly I mean, the bulk of the business is dog walking and cat care.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing that?
Actually, the business turned 15 this month.
Okay. And what got you started with that? Were you in a traditional 9 to 5 before that, or have you always been kind of on your own?
No, I spent my 20s being kind of lost, I guess you could say. I think I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I knew I wanted a business. I just didn't really know what that would look like. I went to school for English and then I went back to school for music. So then naturally, when I got out of school, I lived in fear of being like a 75-year-old waitress. I was like, oh my God, I have all these skills and they're not marketable at all. I kind of just pursued things that I liked,
Uh-huh.
basically. So, I was teaching yoga, I was doing some other things, but I got a job working at an animal shelter when I lived in Boston. And in my 20s, I just kind of became a huge animal person. That was when I really started connecting with that passion.
Mhm.
So then I moved from Boston to Brooklyn and I worked for a dog walking company. And it was really like one of the first jobs I had that I really enjoyed, except I didn't feel the company was very well run. So I kind of just decided, I think I can do this better. And I just went off and I did it. And it just kind of happened. I look back and I'm like, whoa, I can't even get here.
Right. So did you have any fear stepping out of a job and going out on your own? Or was it just kind of you're just ready?
Um, a little bit of both. I think, so at the time, like I said, I was working for a dog walking company and I lived in Brooklyn and, like I said, I'd gone to school for music, so I didn't have a lot of money. I had a small budget, I was living with my boyfriend at the time and so, I had like this stable, kind of low paying job, basically a part-time job, but I was just trying to figure out my life at the time. But so I went to my boss at the time and I said, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna just do my own thing. I wasn't trying to take any of her business or anything like that. And she really dissuaded me. She was like, you'll never get clients, it's so hard, this, that, and the other thing. And so I said, oh, okay, you know what? I'm just going to stay. Like, I've got
Uh,
bills to pay. I'm just going to stay here. And then a month went by and I was like, no, I think I can do this.
mm,
And, I knew a little bit about the law of attraction at the time. That
mhm.
was, I mean, obviously we've learned a lot about the laws, but just a little bit, like watching The Secret. And I said, no, I know this can be done. And I kind of said, you know what? I'm gonna write a business plan. I'm really gonna move forward, and I'm gonna put this out into the universe, and it's just gonna happen. And I really didn't have a lot of doubt. Um, I just had a lot of faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long from the time that you decided I'm gonna do this,
Hmm.
how long is it from that point to the time that you separated from the job and then started your own thing?
Like a month. I mean, I
Okay.
kind of did it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because sometimes I talk to people who feel like they have to come up with some kind of really elaborate plan.
Yeah. I didn't do that. I mean, I didn't have a family, I wasn't married, I didn't have a mortgage to pay. I had bills, but I wasn't in a situation where I had a ton of responsibility, so I think it was a little bit easier.
Mhm.
I didn't really need to, I had a little bit of savings, it wasn't really like life or death for me, but not figuring out my life, that was the life or death part.
Yeah. So, do you think that your boss dissuaded you because she really didn't think you could do it because she was having this experience of it being hard and wanted to protect you, or do you think she was trying to keep you for herself?
I think she wanted me to stay because I was a good employee and I was a hard worker. And she probably was afraid that I would take some of her clients. So I've had employees leave over the years, and we have had a couple people, not many, but a few people have gone on to want to go walk dogs themselves. And I've always said to them, listen, if you want any help, I'm happy to help you.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not looking at this competitively. I wish you well. So. And it
Right.
is much more involved than people think. Obviously, it's still a business. People think, oh, they're just going to go walk some dogs and like play with puppies in the park. But there are a ton of dog walking options. I mean, especially in a place like New York City. So if you're going to have a good business and offer a good service, there's a lot that goes into it. So I
Right.
get it.
What do you wish you knew before you made that jump? And what do you wish that you um, had how would I say it? What do you wish that you knew before you took that action? And what do you wish that you didn't use as an excuse to delay yourself? Does that make sense?
Yeah. What do I wish I knew? Honestly, I'm kind of happy with how it went down, that there were so many unknowns, because I think sometimes it's easy if you put too much thought, you can kind of like thwart your own efforts. I just kind of was like, I'm doing this and I'm going to learn along the way. Um, there were probably certain things, maybe just in terms of basic legal issues or tax situations, things like that, that maybe would have been good to know. But it was all a learning experience. And when I look back, it was kind of a wild ride, all all the things that have happened. Um, so I'm not really one for regret so much.
Right.
So.
And that makes sense because the only way to the only way to really learn something is to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I
And
mean, yeah, exactly. You can read a book, somebody can tell you everything, but you have a get a PhD in something, but it's still like, you've got to learn things while you're doing them.
right. So if you were talking to somebody that was a lot of the people that I talk to that I work with are really frustrated in their jobs. They're miserable. They think that this is just the way life has to be. And you've seen that it doesn't because I've talked to you enough. I know you have tattoos of some of your animals,
Yeah.
and so um, you know that you don't have to have that kind of life where the it doesn't have to just be hard
Yeah.
and then you die. So what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking, um, is it possible for me?
Well, it's definitely possible, whatever it is. I'm a firm believer that you can do anything you want. I think, first of all, you've got to find something that you really like. I think if you're pursuing something just for financial reasons or I don't know, status, whatever it is, it's going to be more challenging
Hmm.
because you're going to just have like an inner resistance to that. But if you find something that you really love or you're really interested in, and you have faith that you can do it, I fully believe, to me, that's the number one thing, like having faith, just knowing, like, I'm going to do this. I don't really know exactly how yet, but I'm going to figure it out. It's going to happen. And I mean, it sounds so simple, but I think that's the truth.
Yeah. So how did you develop faith in knowing that you would be able to figure it out, even though there's this unknown of all the things that that weren't part of the maybe the education that you had or the experience that you had with the other job? How do you have faith when you just don't have that evidence?
Well, I have to say I was kind of lucky because growing up, my parents were kind of like, you can do anything you want. So I know a lot of people get, oh no, you have to do this or you have to do that. You can't do this. But I had a lot of encouragement from my parents. And they always kind of taught me to pursue what made me happy,
Uh-huh.
hence the music degree, But
Right.
so I think I had that subconsciously, just like I know I fully believed I could do it. I just had that in me from growing up.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it comes down to just making a decision. If somebody else can do something, why can't you?
Right.
If someone else can have a successful business, you can do it as well. Like if you decide that you're going to do it and you take the steps. I mean, obviously, if you just sit in your house, I'm going to have this great business, it's going to come to me, like it's not going to work. But
Right.
you take the steps, you make the decision, you can do it.
Yeah. Especially when you've seen a business that's not well run, for example,
Oh yeah.
and you can see that there are things that you could bring to that, whether it's that organization or your own organization or something else, that it, yeah, if somebody who's making these mistakes can be successful, then I should be able to be successful too.
Yeah,
What were
absolutely.
some of the biggest surprises that you experienced?
Oh,
Good or bad, positive, negative?
I mean, I think the biggest thing was probably just in hiring people, working with all the different kinds of personalities. Thankfully, at this point, I don't really do the hiring, and I have three full-time managers, so I pretty much deal exclusively with them, and
Okay.
they deal with our employees. But just dealing with different personality types, with different backgrounds and different expectations, and even the way, in my experience, from the time I hired my first employee, just under 15 years ago to now, I feel like people have changed. I don't know if it's just a generational change, but I mean, it's interesting to see that. And just having to find ways to work with people, um, that's sort of amicable, but also gets done what you need to do. And getting people to like live up to the expectations you have for your company.
Right.
Since they are ultimately, my business, and like many businesses, like we are basically as good as our employees. So we need to have really top-notch people. So that's been very interesting, I would say. And I think a lot of learning has gone into that.
Yeah. How much of of your day to day is working with the animals that you work? I know you do. You said cat care, dog walking, um, and from talking to you earlier, you do overnight care and things like that as well.
Yeah.
How much of that are you involved in, or are you more administrative now?
I'm not involved in any of that. I do volunteer in an animal shelter and I
Mhm.
walk dogs there, but I'm fortunate that at this point I don't have to, I mean I love working with the animals, but no, I really just sort of oversee my managers essentially.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to have quite a bit of free time at this point.
Yeah. And so I think what I hear is that you've created a you've created a life that you love rather than creating a job for yourself.
I would have to say that I mean, which I'm super grateful for, because, a lot of what I focus on in my business is We do a decent amount of charitable work, working with
Mhm.
animal rescues and supporting them in their missions. And because the business at this point runs pretty well, we have a lot of good systems, so it's pretty smooth. So yeah, I get to focus a lot on what I want to in my personal life,
Yeah,
my own interests. So yeah, very fortunate.
that's great. Um, I'm trying to think of what else. What um, one of the things that I hear from people, they don't want to take a step because um, meaning they don't want to try something new. They don't want to get into or a step out of traditional employment because it's risky.
Hmm.
So, um, have you found that to be true that self-employment entrepreneurship is risky, or have you found something different?
I mean, there's definitely a risk associated with it, right? I mean, you know, we we take care of hundreds of animals. I am personally, essentially responsible for all of their care.
Mhm.
Um, one of my employees screws something up, I'm responsible for that.
Right,
I take that responsibility really seriously because, to me, the most important part is that we're taking great care of the animals. And obviously there is a financial responsibility. There's always potential liability and everything. I mean, we live in America, right?
right,
Um, and but I think to me the risk, I mean the benefits far outweigh the risks associated with having a business. It just depends how you want your lifestyle to be. I also think, I don't know. I haven't really spent, I had a corporate job once for 6 months at some point in my 20s. So I don't have a
uh-huh.
lot of experience with that. But, I see, people get laid off all the time. I don't know how much
Right,
stability there is necessarily in depending on someone else. I mean, I'm not knocking that. Like, that's great. There's a lot of people that like it and they're happy. But I don't know how much loyalty there is between from a corporation to an employee. So I think the more important thing from my perspective is really just to do something that makes you happy. And if you love your job, like that's awesome. There's plenty of people that have a lot of room for growth and their jobs are interesting and fun and but if you're going to work every day and you're miserable, um, this might be your only life. I don't know. I don't know what comes after
right,
this. You got to use it well. You have to like, if you're spending 8 hours a day or more, 10 hours, I don't know, every day in a job that you hate, I think I think there's something on the law of polarity would say if you hate your job, there's also, something else there that you love that will give you what you need. So,
right.
um, I think you got to go for it.
Yeah. I had a question that just it's it's close. I'll figure it out. Um, Oh, I was curious if you had other people in your life. Your parents, it sounds like, have been very supportive. Did you have other people in your life who were like the boss that you had that dissuaded you? Did you have other people that cautioned you from doing something that they saw as risky or potentially um well, I think risky is probably the best word I can think of.
Yeah. At that point, I don't think so. I think like people who were close to me were probably just happy to see me make a decision and like fully pursue something. Um, and then, it took off relatively quickly. It was one client next. I mean, I hired my first employee within about 4 months.
Okay.
So I think, like some people in my life, my sister, for example, was actually happy. Every time I would see her, how many clients do you have now? I mean, it seems funny to me now to think that, but so I think most of the people around me were happy to see that I was doing something that I was enjoying, that was challenging me, and had potential for something great on the other side. I don't think anybody thought it would go where it did, but
Hmm. Yeah, I think um going back to having faith, it's I was working with a client earlier today, and one of the things she and I both have the same type of experience with visualizing a future or a situation that we want to work towards, that it's not something that comes naturally. And
It's not
so
natural to you, you're saying? No. Okay.
it's not. And so it's a challenge. It's a challenge for me to visualize something that I haven't seen, experienced before.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the best way that I found to get around that is with journaling. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
just write, what is the outcome? And I'll give as much detail as I can think of, the detail that I want. I want this. And the example that I was using is my TEDx talk, which is, as this drops, it's a week ago,
Yeah.
but it's coming up in a couple of days. And so for me to just sit and close my eyes and visualize how that's going to go takes a lot of effort. But I can sit down and write down, okay, I'm standing on
Mm-hmm.
the backstage, and I can see the audience, and I can see the lights, and I can feel that, so I can describe it. And then as I describe it to myself in journaling, I can have a kind of a guided meditation experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I've done that, and then sometimes I'll even record my voice describing,
Yeah.
and that helps me visualize. But I didn't know that this was different than anybody else until it's been probably within the last year and a half, that other people, oh yeah, I see pictures. I can just create things in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was in music school, I didn't know anything about visualization or anything like that at the time. And I remember one of my voice teachers, I had, some kind of performance or something coming up, and she was telling me to visualize it and think about how it feels and everything that's going on the stage and, all of that. I remember her saying, that a lot of athletes use that. And I was just kind of like, what? And I tried it with very little success.
Mm,
So I do understand, like I'll do that a lot where I'll write out things that I want and I'll write them in detail. And then, as you're writing, I feel like it's easier to kind of like feel all the things and to have the ideas sort of evolve, rather than just, I mean, I can visualize a little bit better now, but I do remember for sure I was like, what do you mean visualize performance? Like, what's that gonna do,
yeah, just
I mean,
close your eyes, and I think
yeah.
when I close my eyes, it's just dark.
Yeah. That's how I go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I can visualize. Again, it takes effort, but also, um, I, because of the effort, I can't go to sleep while I'm visualizing.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's normal or I don't know.
You have
But so it's,
very vivid visualizations, I guess.
well, and a lot of times it's just me telling myself this is what's going to happen, or describing what I expect.
Yeah.
So,
Well, sometimes you just have to kind of convince yourself, and if you see, they say like your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's really happening and what you're visualizing. So,
right.
if you tell your subconscious mind enough times, like you show it that image,
Yeah.
that it's basically already happened. So it must be true.
Yeah. That's true. And I think there's power in that. I think there's power in having that idea that gives us something to work towards, and of course having the emotion that's tied
Mhm.
to it. Because yeah, there are a lot of studies that support that doesn't matter if you practice in your mind or practice physically, whether it's musical instrument. I've heard this um, related to piano, like
Mhm.
a piano piece,
Yeah.
basketball, free throws,
Mhm.
golf swings, golf shots. Um, so I think there's something to it. And
It definitely is, yeah.
I
I
just
mean, I think it's one way of manifesting what you want. And also kind of practicing for it, like just uh, you know, like you said, you're practicing for your TEDx talk, say, and you're going through it in your mind, and you've already done it. So maybe you're not like standing up on a stage 20 times in front of all these people to practice, but you're still doing it. And I think that has a similar impact,
yeah,
which is pretty cool.
yeah. And so when I have gone through some of the practice, I guess I can call it a practice rehearsal. I'm just walking up and down the street, or I'm walking around in my kitchen and
Hmm.
going through the script. I found that I know what's coming next. And so I can play with the language. I can play with, I can say it a little bit differently and then just see how it lands for me,
Hmm.
how it comes across my ear. And so, yeah. So when it's game time, I've done it. I've done it. I don't have to worry about. I've had people. I think I've had several people, especially recently. Are you nervous? No, because
Yeah.
I know my script,
Hmm.
and I did a practice today, and I forgot two segments, two blocks, and it was not a big deal because
Yeah.
the people listening said I couldn't tell that you missed that. Oh,
Well,
good,
that's the thing, right? No one else is really going to know what you
right,
missed because they, unless you give them all copies of the script. So,
that's right. Oh, you said of instead of in. Yeah.
yeah. Now, when you
So
do that, are you picturing the room and the people? Are you picturing like the whole thing, visualizing all of it? Yeah.
yeah, and what makes it hard is because I haven't seen the room. I haven't
Yeah.
seen pictures of it. I know that there's going to be the signature red dot. I know that there's going to be some signage that says TEDx,
Hmm.
and I haven't decided what I'm going to wear yet. But I have on my vision board black pants, royal blue shirt. I'm still thinking about different options, and do I want to go a little bit dressier, a little bit more casual? Don't know yet. So I'll just bring a
What you're
bunch of stuff.
comfortable in. Yeah. As long as you're comfortable, right?
Yeah, and then so I'm. But again, having this picture in my mind about audience, I don't know how the audience is going to be roughly 150 people is what the plan is. Um, so I can kind of imagine that, but we'll see. Once I get there Friday rehearsal, I'll know what I'm looking at. Friday
Hmm.
night should have a much cleaner visualization.
Huh.
And I may still journal it and just because it gets a little bit more clear every time. And
Hmm.
that's one of the things that I think is interesting as well as we um, practice mentally rehearse the things that we want to do is that they get more clear. Maybe there are details that are more important or become more important. Other things that we thought were important that become a little bit less uh, of a focus. And
Well, I
so,
think, yeah, I mean, ideas kind of evolve, um, like there's different iterations of things you're doing. I mean, you think about your goals change, right? And with that,
yeah,
there's different things and go into them. And things that, the more you are preparing for something, the more ideas come to you that you hadn't thought of. And, everything is like an evolution of what you're doing.
yeah. So I'm curious what actually I've got two questions. First of all, what role has community played in building your business to the level that it is? And when I say community, I mean the people that you surround yourself with, either physically or virtually.
Well, I mean, I would say early on when I first started, I was friendly with a lot of people with similar businesses, many of which are still exist or don't exist or are pretty small. Most of them didn't, grow to be large businesses, but it was very helpful in the beginning to have other people around me that understood what I was doing because I was constantly just asking other people, what should I do about this client? What do I do with this policy? Because I really I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have a dog. I had never actually had a dog at that point. So I didn't know anything about any of the particulars. So that was really helpful. And then I think just getting involved with the kind of, I guess, the dog community in Brooklyn where my business is, rescues and vets and trainers and all of that, which has been helpful in terms of, growing the businesses and having resources to offer clients and stuff like that. But in terms of, as being a business owner now, I do find it really helpful to connect with other business owners, different, all kinds of businesses, because I think there's a different, or there can be a different mentality between an entrepreneur and, someone who just kind of goes to work and then they leave and they leave their work behind.
Mhm.
Um, because when you are an entrepreneur, there's really no leaving that behind. I mean, like I said, I have a lot of free time, but I'm still like mentally in, involved in the business all the time. I check in a lot. It's like something I think about. I'm always thinking, how can we do things better? If there's an issue, how can we do this better? So being around people who understand the, you know, the the diligence and the determination and the growth that's involved in being a business owner and becoming a better business owner and growing your business or maybe having other businesses, I think that is really, really helpful for me. Most of those people for me are people that are in different parts of the country. Most of my close friends are not really business owners, so um, that's not something I have necessarily readily available. But, like when I go down to Charlotte for, from the program that we're in, meeting up with people in that capacity, um, it's great. It is really, I think it's really huge to have people in your life that are supportive and understand, because I think it's really easy for some people to, like we were talking about my old boss, but I think it's really easy for people to dissuade people, especially in the beginning when they're first starting a business, because many people have this idea of security and safety that they believe comes with a job. I mean, I'm not so sure that's true. And I think there's a lot of fear involved with that. So it's very easy, especially I'm sure if you have a family, you have kids, you have a lot of responsibilities. There's so much fear and like, well, what if you don't do it? And I think that in and of itself is one of the things that holds us back. When you focus on that, well, what if I don't do it?
Mhm.
I mean, you're kind of moving in that direction mentally. You have to focus on I'm the other side of that, which is I'm doing it. It's
Yeah.
happening. So I think having people who can kind of help guide your mindset, and you can just, talk about different ideas, and they understand from a different perspective. I think that's really, really helpful.
Yeah. I agree. It's having somebody that's in the trenches like you are, not necessarily with you, but like you are,
Yeah.
as somebody who can help you have the perspective that when you're having one of those low moments, you can rely on somebody. And when you're having a high moment, you can be that support for somebody else. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in that.
I mean, to have people around you that encourage, instead of saying, oh, well, you're having a tough spot in your business, maybe you should get a job, to have
Right.
people like, no way, no, no, it's a tough spot, but here's some ideas, here's how I'm seeing it, here's a different perspective, and keep going. Like, you've got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. What advice would you give to somebody who's kind of on the fence that this is not the life that I want in the whatever the situation is, and I want to try something new, but there's that feeling of there's safety, which I put in air quotes. There's safety in staying where I am, even though I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled, I'm not enjoying anything about it.
Yeah, I don't think there's safety in being unhappy. When you look back at the end of your life and you're like, oh man, I just wish I had done this or done that. I mean, there are people in this world that have done like absolutely amazing things that people thought were impossible. I mean, if you just compare the world now to the world 100 years ago,
Yeah.
I mean, if you had told someone 100 years ago, we're going to be sitting here on a Zoom call, they would probably be like, "What do you mean? I don't like.
Right.
We don't even have telephones. Like, what do you? I don't know. What are you even talking about?"
Yeah.
Um, I think it's just you got to figure out what you want to do. Like, what would you? How do you enjoy spending your time? What makes you happy? And then you may not know right away how to turn that into a business. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you're like, this is what I really want to do, and you just have to make the decision to do it. But
Right.
maybe you know that you're not happy now. I think it's really at that point, it's a commitment to figuring out what does make you happy, um, and what you want your life to be. I think you can design your life. Um, you can design how you want to spend your time, how you're going to make money. And obviously that takes effort, it takes time, it doesn't
Mhm.
happen overnight, but it can be done. So I think it really just starts with the decision and figuring out what makes you happy.
Yeah. I like that because It's one of the things we heard this morning is that we've got the subconscious block because so many times in our lives, and I grew up in a family where I was told no a lot. No, we
Hmm.
can't do that. We can't do that because I can't. No, we can't afford that. We can't do that. We can, and so it's been easy to train myself that, well, I can't do this because
Hmm.
I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the knowledge or whatever. But with the world the way that it is, knowledge is so easy to get.
Hmm.
And then it's just a matter of having the courage to
Yeah, and
take a step.
the other thing I think that's a lot easier now, it's easier to connect to the people that you need. I mean, you may not know who those
Right.
people are right now, but um, it's much easier, I think, to network and to find people with common interests or people who might be able to help you do what you want to do, instead of just like, well, there's nobody in my town, there's nobody, like they're out there and they're a lot easier to find. So
Yeah.
I think that the resources are there once you make the decision and you just start going in that direction. And that sounds oversimplified and it sounds like so easy. But sometimes when I think about my business, I think I've had a ton of challenges. There have been time, I mean, the first couple years, I personally was doing visits probably 365 days a year. I worked, I was saying yes to like every potential client along the way until I made a decision that that's not what I was going to do. Um, and I was going to have more free time, but totally lost my train of thought there, Ken. Where am I going with that? We'll get off the call and then I'll be like, wait a
That's
minute.
right. Oh, by the way,
Weird.
no, I think
Oh,
that there's there's value in pursuing or at least becoming aware and then
mhm.
being willing to take a step towards. You may not know everything. You may
Oh, I
not
know
know
what
the
I was going to
people.
say. Got it. Okay. Yeah, like, even though I mean, we've had crazy things happen with my business. Like you can't even believe I could write a book. Really. But and it would probably be pretty entertaining. But at the same time, there always felt like sometimes I would sit back over the years and I was like, how did this happen so easily? Like, how did this just grow? And without like, oh my God, like we've almost never done any marketing. It's all word of mouth. And I always thought to myself, okay, well, my goal isn't to be the biggest company, it's to be the best company.
Hmm.
It's to do the best job we can, to take the best care of the animals we can. And I think with that, when you do your best, I think there's an energy that goes with that where you receive the benefits of that. But I think there was a certain amount of ease that came with it, despite like daily challenges,
Right.
but the ease of growing the business overall. Um, Sometimes I was like, just why was this so easy? I mean, and not easy on the day to day,
Right.
but overall. So I think once you make those decisions and you find something that you really like, it can be kind of not easy, but like there's an ease to it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because you like what you're doing. I don't know. And not to say I've liked everything I've done. Obviously, there's things, in every business that are not fun, but you just have to do them,
Yeah. I love
I think.
that. I love that. And I think you're right that it's the answers are closer than we believe because
Yeah.
we just
Okay.
so many times we assume that the answer is not out there. And so we don't even push
Yeah.
to
Well, the
find it.
answer's always somewhere, right? It
Yeah,
has to be.
that's true.
It can't be a question without an answer.
Yeah,
So you just have to find the answer.
that's right. And one of the things that has helped me is knowing that it's okay to ask.
Hmm.
It's not a sign of weakness to ask questions or to ask for help.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's huge. And also, because none of us can know all the answers.
Right.
That's the best part about one of the best parts about being able to connect with other people. Everybody has a different perspective, different information, different experiences. And also not being afraid to make a mistake or to be wrong, because if you never made a mistake, or if you always did everything perfectly, there's really no growth in that. You're already there.
Yeah.
So I think it's just realizing that's how you get better. I mean, I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. about all the different people I feel like I've been from the time I started my business to who I am now with regard to the business, how I run the business.
Mhm.
But it's like every time something gets bigger or more challenging, you have to grow to meet that.
Yeah.
And in that you become a different person. I think hopefully, better version of yourself. But I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah. That's cool. That's true. And it is about becoming. It is about finding. There's a quote. I think David said it, and I'm trying to remember what it was. That if something's not working, how did he say it? Something like if something's not working in your favor, it's working on you to show you what decision you need to make or what you need to change. I think
Mm.
it was something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true, I mean, there's no just because you make a mistake. I think a lot of it for me in my business was realizing because in the beginning, anytime something went wrong, everything was dire. It was just like, oh
Uh-huh.
my God, we're gonna die. And now, I mean, even when we have like really big challenges that come, I'm able to have a different perspective where I can stay calm and just think, okay, like let's be methodical about this. Let's
Right.
approach this in a way like sometimes there's a novel challenge and
Yeah.
we don't know how to deal with it, but like let's just figure it out. And kind of try to just remain calm and realize that, you know, okay, so we maybe we screwed something up. We're going to figure out how to do better. We're going to do better next time, and we're going to learn the
Right.
lesson in this.
Exactly. We can fix it. I This has been great. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks.
It has been
Thanks
fun.
for spending some time. If people want to get to know you better, what's the best way for them to connect?
They can email me
Okay.
at my email, which is hello@jordanspetcare.com.
Okay.
Jordan's with an S, and or they could check out our website. It's jordanspetcare.com.
All right.
And yeah, that's an easy way to find me.
Cool. I'll put that in the show notes as well.
All right, cool.
So
Well,
thanks
thank
for
you so
taking the
much, Pam.
time.
This was really fun.
All
Appreciate
right.
you having me on.
Great. And for everybody else, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.
Good luck with your talk Saturday.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Ken.
All right.
Get back to the work you love, where you face less stress, gain more happiness, and live into your purpose. Let me help you become unstuck and unstoppable so you can finally have the life you want. Head over to my website to connect with me at kenwilliamscoaching.com.